Mary wanted the whole country to hate her guts, so she grabbed a handful of straw and threw it into the relief porridge for the refugees, then kept stirring until the straw mixed into the porridge, just to make the refugees curse her to death. And sure enough, the refugees instantly exploded with insults at Mary, but Mary still thought the hatred was not enough, so she scooped up horse manure and mixed it into the porridge again. But what nobody knew was that Mary was actually kind-hearted. The only reason she acted this evil was to stay alive, because after Mary got transported into a novel, she realized she was the daughter of a corrupt official, and her father had stolen disaster relief funds, leaving corpses everywhere. According to the novel, the new emperor would wipe out her entire family in 3 years, so Mary grabbed a pillar and tried to kill herself on the spot, so she could go back to modern life and clock in for work during rush hour. But instead of killing herself, Mary unlocked a system, and the system immediately gave her a mission. She had to either spend 1 billion silver taels or get exiled to Lingnan to return home, and if she completed the mission, the system would reward her with $1 billion. But she only had 24 hours to do it. When Mary heard all she had to do was play a reckless rich girl for $1 billion reward, she could barely hide her excitement, because this was exactly her specialty. So Mary immediately went to her father's study and demanded 5,000 silver taels. But even though the corrupt official had stolen silver piled all over his desk, he still refused to give Mary any, because the money was dirty. But that was no problem for Mary. Mary instantly said she was sick of looking at those refugees anyway, and planned to buy out every grain of rice in the city just to waste it all, because then the refugees would hate her even more, and the court would exile her to Lingnan for her crimes. But Mary had no idea she said exactly what her father wanted to hear, because he was already panicking over the stolen relief money in his hands. If he kept it himself, it would prove he was corrupt, but if Mary bought all the rice, the prices would skyrocket. Then the court would blame greedy merchants instead of him for the disaster, and think he had nothing to do with it. So her father immediately handed Mary 5,000 silver taels and told her to go wild. Even though Mary still did not understand what her father was thinking, she did not care as long as she could get back home and claim the reward. The next second, she arrived at the only rice shop in town, and demanded the owner bring out all the rotten moldy rice stored for 3 years, because she would buy every last grain for 3 times the market price. Mary claimed her pets loved eating spoiled rice like this. Then she threw all 5,000 silver taels at the shop owner, and since Mary was the magistrate's daughter, the owner did not dare slack off, so he immediately ordered the workers to bring out the rotten rice stored for 3 years. Sure enough, Mary instantly got cursed out by the refugees. They said as the magistrate's daughter, she should be using her money for disaster relief, instead of wasting fortunes on rotten rice for pets. They called her absolutely heartless, but the nastier they cursed at Mary, the happier she became, because the system detected her terrible behavior, and judged it perfectly fit for a cruel rich villain. So the system rewarded her with another $200,000, so to hurry back to modern life and enjoy luxury, Mary immediately decided to serve the rotten rice porridge at the city gate, just to disgust the refugees even more. But she had no idea the third prince and her father's political enemy were secretly watching. Wanting to bring down Mary's father, the enemy immediately spoke to the third prince, saying Mary buying rotten rice at crazy prices and provoking refugees was pure wastefulness. But the third prince did not see it that way, because Mary buying all the rotten rice forced the shop to sell good rice cheaper, which kept rice prices from skyrocketing. Besides, rich people would never eat rotten rice anyway, so in his eyes Mary was being incredibly noble. Then the third prince headed to the city gate to see if Mary was truly feeding the refugees out of kindness. But what Mary never expected was that even pigs would not drink the disgusting porridge she made. Yet the starving refugees still rushed over, terrified they would not get any, which was the complete opposite of Mary's plan to make everyone hate her. So Mary immediately threw another handful of straw into the pot, and finally one refugee started screaming insults at her, furious that Mary was feeding them food meant for livestock. But instead, Mary calmly stirred the pot again with a spoon, and when the refugee threatened to hit her, Mary actually pointed at her own face and dared him to do it. But once again, everything went completely wrong, because the other refugees instantly beat up the troublemaker instead. The starving refugees simply did not care if the porridge had straw in it. Then everyone started gulping it down. Mary tried to stop them but could not hold anyone back. Right at that moment, the third prince walked over, and seeing how popular Mary's porridge was, he took a sip himself, only to nearly choke on the straw inside. Mary instantly knew he was no ordinary man. She expected him to curse her out, but instead the third prince called it excellent porridge, because he believed adding straw expanded the amount of food for disaster relief. Normally 1 pound of rice could only make 2 pounds of porridge, but with straw Mary could stretch it into 5 pounds. Hearing that excuse nearly made Mary explode. She could not understand why getting back home was this hard. So to make the refugees hate her again, Mary scooped up horse manure and dumped it straight into the porridge, then stirred it around, and finally the refugees started cursing her again. They yelled that Mary was treating people like animals, but the third prince instantly defended her again, claiming Mary would rather carry the blame herself just to save the entire city, and called her the savior of the people. The third prince's speech completely moved the refugees, and the next second the entire crowd dropped to their knees and worshipped Mary like a hero, without realizing the system had already detected everything, and all the hatred points Mary earned instantly dropped below zero. Meanwhile, the third prince was was still praising Mary for her sacrifice, completely unaware that an enraged Mary grabbed him by the throat the next second.